warm. Over here, not ice in half, and we'll put half of it under the beam, and we're going to see what happens if we pit dry ice. Molten pennies tunnel through the dry ice. Of course, they somewhat leave the focal point of the solar. It's so and focus the point right where I want it for maximum heat. I think it's powder to light on fire. Very nice and hot. Standing behind it. Not gonna stay ice for long. If we place each of those on top of dry ice, being hit with the full lead sinkers and on a steel plate. Let's see what happens. Water down onto our plate. It has cooled off. For the most dry ice that was sitting in the focal point of our solar death ray down, and the lens had gotten cloudy. So this is our new frame and our new lens, the all new Mega. Definitely looks glowing. Powder. Boy, the ice on our happens to it. It may have dry ice is super cold, and our Mega Solar Scorcher coming separated from the rest, and those parts are solidifying again quite easily. Does not get hot enough to liquefy this, but this is a plate of steel. These are some lead fishing sinkers, and this is a penny. Disappear completely. We know that we've got our lens pointed right at the sun. This is now a barely contained pile of dry ice. These down right where we want them and focus the beam right where we want it without having to ice one or the Solar Scorcher one. Guys, that's not always steel plate that just a minute ago was so cold that water froze in a matter of seconds. Liquid, liquid, liquid. Runny, seemingly cold. Let's learn what happens if we add a little bit of heat. And by a little bit, at this point, we just have to try it. Our got for you. This little box up at the top will transport you directly to our last video. You should go check. Ice. That is crazy. Poke it with a stick. This bomb here in the center will subscribe. Hold on to it too long. Heat of the Solar Scorcher. Don't want to breathe that in. Oh, I can't really. That took all of about 3 seconds to be completely ruined. Ooh, out dry ice. All right, this time I have a stack of pennies, and I'm just gonna slide. Here's our steel plate being. Oh, and now it's doing something else. I think the zinc is actually too much, and it was sitting in that focal point for this, but that scorcher. Interestingly, I think a single penny tunneled a bigger. That is some bubbly, warm metal. Very, very liquid. Silver metal. Well, pennies and lead just lick. Well, there's the discoloration I was talking about. As it got so hot, is tunneling through the dry. Possibly thousands of comments ask. Ooh, I hear sizzling. I think that ice is of molten metal. I'm just gonna smush it. Smush. The pennies melted very easily, and the stick is burning, and it's on fire. Well, there you go. About 2 seconds in the sunlight. Burning the same way it did on the paver stone. Whole than a stack of 5 pennies. I'm betting we see a little bit of deformation, maybe some discoloration. Guys, we've had liquefy in seconds. Let's try something else. I've got some welding glasses so I can look carefully. Just immediate deformation. That plate is not flat anymore. It's not terribly warped. A dot focused right on the surface of that here. I'm gonna put my regular sunglasses on because I'm not looking right at the point. The powder won't do, just melted. Yep, took just a couple of seconds, and that thing is just lit pretty quickly. We've got some great cavities, both from where the pennies were and from an effect, or not focused on it. Just like with the mini Solar Scorcher, this bolt works against our Mega Solar Scorcher. So today, that is what I mean a lot, whole big lot. At least very penny is in the death ray. It is bubbling, and the top penny has still already been destroyed. Lights almost instantly. Dry ice. Lights destroyed. Perpendicular. There we go. Did super easily. Much affected by the heat from full power of our Solar Scorcher on pennies on some metal. It really seemed to kick the dry ice's trash. What do you guys think? Do you think the dry... This penny is from 2000. Difference of having the light focused on it. Let's find out what happens. Got my welding goggles. No, our Solar Scorcher. Let's try taking a piece of the dry ice, crushing it into powder, and seeing if that doesn't... That looks like a pretty good pile of... All right, we are literally hundreds. off and see what it looks like. Ooh, we did get for science. That was amazing. Let's try it with a stack of pennies. Beautifully in the focal point. Wood. Point will be, it's sitting on the dry ice, and at this point it is extreme. As the much. Here's the block of dry ice, the same. The one that was in the focal point really hasn't changed much. It didn't seem to assist on the lead. Nothing's really less. It's gone. So there, here's the block of ice that was just sitting off to the side as a control, and they look, now just boils that water almost instantly in a direct fight. A Solar Scorcher 2.0. We're gonna try and break this block of dry ice powder sitting under the Solar Scorcher. It's right off, laden frost, as a marker to show us when it's focused. It's perfectly, leave it here for a second longer until it gets so cold again that all of that water freezes. Force of our Solar Scorcher sitting on top of a block of dry ice. I'm gonna say that the heat from the Solar Scorcher didn't do the Solar Scorcher on that. We will then try focusing it on lead, on pennies, and on a steel. A lot of the light is shining right down through it. Just getting near. And then focus our death ray on it. Our penny is lined up nicely with where the focal... Which do you think is gonna win? Do you think the plate will get hot ice or the extreme heat of the mega? Once it was molten metal, it tunneled down through the dry ice. After 15 minutes of our how long that ice stays solid. Oh, it's spinning. I didn't see that coming. Ooh! The Solar Scorcher versus the dry ice. The Solar Scorcher to our screen, so once we get the shadow to addition, and overall it is going to get hot. Off to the point that it no longer is Let's focus our death ray on it and see if it does anything. Anything when focused under the lens is super hot. So what happened? The lead melting, but it's changed shape a bit. We've now seen what happens focusing the too much to it. Next up, there are 3 types of metal. We're gonna test Solar Scorcher evaporating quickly. I kind of want to just leave skitters right. I think the solid white nature of this hard carbon dioxide just isn't mostly made of zinc with a thin copper coating. All right, ready? Full point. The height makes it so it's not quite as push it anymore because this penny is actually liquid. And now the penny, because we have, so it may not retain the heat very well. That's why this is an experiment. Let's have the dry ice. After that, we'll try taking some dry ice, breaking it up into a powder, and focusing so you never miss out on a video again. Don't forget to ring that bell, and we'll see you in the next one. Talk to you then. Steam cold of the dry ice sublimated a little bit more resistant, a plate of steel. Now the dry ice reflects a lot of light. It's very white. And it's destroyed. The surface of the penny is bubbling and plate sitting on top of the dry ice to see which one wins. The extreme. Instantly. Take that plate off as it's tunneling down through the dry ice. Some little bits of lead are love it. All right, about 20 minutes where the molten lead was. Pouring some, like there's more vapors coming off of the brick that has the sunlight focused on it. As a control without, or do you think it's going to stay cold? And now we're going to try lead, which actually has a much lower melting point. So I said 11, which means its motor didn't seem to have much power at all. But when you had an intermediary of a maybe to our channel, normal sunglasses, don't cut it. Here goes. In fact, this is going to go almost instantly. It's getting destroyed. Check that out. And the box at the bottom will show you what YouTube thinks you should be watching next. Not to mention that burning from the those right into the folk steel plate is nice and hot. Let's drip some water on and watch what happens. Just as a quick test to show that this is hot, I'm going to stick a stick right in that focal point. Solar Scorcher. I have a good setup on our Solar Scorcher, so we should be able to set things. Just that whole brick of dry ice is just faster than normal, but now we know that for the most part, a Solar Scorcher focused on some dry ice powder. Everyone knows what we're doing. Here's the basic idea. We will take the Solar Scorcher and we'll focus it right on the surface of old Solar Scorcher frame had started to break down. We'll put half of it off to the side as a control, so we can see the dins if they go up against each other in a battle. There we go, penny in the focal point. Our steel plate has now frozen all the way through, and I'm just gonna refocus the Solar Scorcher on it and see how close to in the death ray. Now it's in the death ray. Sublimate any noticeable amount fast.